Hi and welcome. A few people have asked me how to remove the bodywork on the Le Mans. So in this video I'll just run you through how that's done. To remove the rear bodywork, you first need to remove the seat. There's a push button on this side. It's a lot easier if you push down on the seat first. When you push it in, then you can lift the seat up and take it off. This is a locking button, so if it's locked you'll need the key. Now from my experience, it's actually a lot easier to remove this whole section of bodywork in one go. There's two bolts here which hold the side panels to the rear ducktail on both sides, and they're a bit hard to get to. So I find it's a lot easier to unbolt the ducktail as well as the side panels and just lift the whole thing off. There's a couple of bolts here on both sides, and there's also a couple of bolts behind the taillight, so we'll need to take the taillight lens off. But first I'll need to take the rack off. And next we need to take the taillight lens off. There's two Phillips screws that hold the lens on. And if your screws are a bit like mine, they're probably a little bit hard to undo, because the heads have probably been mutilated a little bit over time. Before we go any further, I should also point out that these taillight lenses are rather hard to come by. They're a fairly standard CUV taillight lens, but they have these two wings glued onto them. And these wings have a tendency to crack at the bottom here and disappear over time. So you really should check the lens on your Le Mans 1000 to make sure that the wings are securely glued on, and if not, reinforce that glue. Okay, the next step is we need to take out the tool tray. Mine's not actually bolted in because I've got it out for repair. These actually crack quite badly, and you certainly should take yours out and repair it and re-glue it before it falls apart completely. They're held in just by a single bolt through the rear guard here, so it's pretty easy to take out. And once that's out and we've got the taillight lens off, we can actually gain access to the two bolts that hold the ducktail on. Okay, we'll just remove those two bolts now. Okay, next we need to remove the four bolts that hold the side panels on. These ones have actually been replaced. The original ones actually use a flat-bladed screwdriver, whereas I've used ones off a slightly later model. I just find these ones are a bit easier to get off. Okay, now that we've taken all the bolts out, we should be able to just lift this whole assembly off. Now there is a tab on each side at the bottom of each side panel that we need to free up by lifting the side panel a little and pulling it out. That way it's off that retaining tab. And then I find the easiest way is we just pull it back a little bit, lift that side out. You do have to flex it a little bit, but it certainly seems to flex quite well. Pull it over, then lift the whole assembly up a little bit like that, so you sort of tilt it, and then the whole assembly will come quite off quite easily. It's reasonably flexible. You certainly be able to flex it a reasonable amount, and you're certainly not risking breaking it. One other thing I should point out with these side panels is that they're quite fragile, and they do have a tendency to crack along the top here or down the side. They're quite easily repaired, whether it's glue or, in this case, this one's been fiberglassed on the other side here, because these panels at the moment are really hard to come by. Well, I hope that's been a fairly informative video, and I hope to do a few more in the future. I'll see you next time.